Hi, everybody. Welcome to the very late Indie Spotlight. We're about 11 minutes late. Our apologies. Some technical difficulties, but that's the way it goes when you're doing low budget live craziness. Anyway, I'm Jonathan Betzler, one of your hosts of No Name Cinema Society here tonight, and we're here to talk about. We've exhausted a lot of the films indies from 2014, and we want to make sure that we can do indies that are available to all of you to go see. So we're gonna. Davey Joe made a rule when we started that any indies has to be within 5 years. So we're going to go back 5 years. I'm going to start doing a series of indies from 2010 that one of us will recommend, and I'm starting tonight with this film called Rabbit Hole. And Rabbit Hole is it's based on a play by David Lindsay-Abaire that it's a Pulitzer Prize-winning play. It won a Tony for Best Actress for Cynthia Nixon, and it's about a married couple who basically try to cope with the loss of their son, it seems simple, but obviously with things like that, it can get a little more complicated. Before we get too much into it, let me introduce my compatriots here. Back for the Indie Spotlight. This is Jay Money. How you feeling, Jay Money?
Hello, everybody. I feel great.
You feel great, even though are you worried that we're a little behind? Are you upset?
Nothing worries me.
Nothing at all?
Nothing at all.
Davey Joe, how are you?
Fantastic.
How's your sound situation going over there?
I mean, I can hear. I don't know.
That's all that matters, ultimately, that you can hear. You're not drinking anything over there?
No, I don't. I don't drink during the week.
Just cocaine.
So anyway, I'm the one who recommended this film, and I mean, obviously, those of you that know me know that this is my kind of film. Naturalistic, humanistic, regular people dealing with real-life problems. But on top of everything, one of the hardest things to do is to adapt a stage play to the screen. Like, many of them are just not cinematic enough to make work. Look at how Roman Polanski's Carnage. Roman Polanski probably does it better than anybody, but Roman Polanski's Carnage, based on an amazing play, just didn't have the same kineticness that the stage production did. I mean, it was all took place in one room, and that's just not doesn't lend itself well to film. Director John Cameron Mitchell, who is a stage director to start out with, did a great job of making this film. It's still a small film, but it's also very cinematic in its use of iconography and cinematography. So that's my feeling. These guys were watching it for the first time. So let's start with David Joe.
It was a great movie, and the performances really I thought were phenomenal.
My word, Davey and I, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, what's going on here?
Well, I mean, we disagreed once already tonight, so that's
so
plenty.
So you're trying to balance it out. Jay Money, what you think?
I thought it was terrible. No, I loved it. I thought it was great, actually. And I guess I loved it for all the reasons that you kind of outlined about 30 seconds ago. So, kudos to you.
I got one right? Is that basically what you were getting at?
So far, one for whatever. Yeah.
I recommended lots of other films you like. Didn't you like The Guest? Weren't you a big fan of that one I recommended? I also recommended The Hunt.
That's true.
You never watched The Hunt.
We agree a lot more than we disagree. We just end up disagreeing about what we agree on. So.
That's right. That's absolutely right. That's exactly.
And if you guys, if you viewers don't understand that comment, I encourage you to watch previous episodes, and you will. So let's start to break down some of the reasons why Rabbit Hole works so well. One of the reasons that is clear to me is because normally with a play, it's the dialogue that tends to take center stage. But I don't think that's the case here, which is not to say that the screenplay itself isn't good. What's interesting to me about David Lindsay-Abaire in this particular case, I don't know a lot of his works. I know his short plays that I don't enjoy. They're sort of trite and slight, no rhyme intended. But in this case, it seemed like he worked very hard to create visual iconography within the screenplay, and I was really impressed with that. And the dialogue is not super sharp or anything like that. It just feels honest and real. Like these are actual people and going through with these lives. So we can talk about the performance in a second. But I mean, first thing I want to acknowledge is the actual adaptation process. Davey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar with the play, but it definitely, I mean, as far as the feel of the movie, it definitely does feel like theater on the screen. But you know, getting back to what you said before, it
I mean, like, you do think that it feels stagey?
oh, it does, but it doesn't. It works. It does, but it definitely works. I mean, I think that individual scenes um, definitely feel like great theater. The scene where Aaron Eckhart just really loses his mind and breaks down. Um, it's just I was riveted. I mean, it was really powerful.
I disagree with that statement, Jay Money. You want to break the tie? I mean, like, not the powerful part of it, but the theatrical part of it. I mean, like, I feel like this film opened up that it opened up, to in lots of ways. Like, it didn't feel confined, like a lot of stage play adaptations do.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I think one thing that struck me about this film is that despite the fact that it is really driven by exposition, by dialogue, by these characters, it's got a lot of atmosphere. It's got a lot of things going for it that really make it feel filmic. So as much as I can see how it was probably adapted from the stage, that never really actually crossed my mind while I was watching it. And that's something that usually I can pick up on when I get involved in these movies. So I think it was actually a really successful, completely successful interpretation of what was probably staged. And I think it went further. I think that there was a lot of things that were happening in it that were very specific to film alone. So I think I really appreciated that aspect of it.
There was also a lot of subtext too, like, which is not something you see a lot in plays. I mean, like, the plays have subtext, but they can't ever cut to a close-up plays. So like
Yes.
it's a
And I
different
think that
kind
they
of
reflected
subtext.
well in this.
Sorry, Jay
Yeah.
Money.
No, I did. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was going to say that I think that they were showing a lot that you wouldn't be able to see on stage, like you're saying, and I think they left a lot to the performers to sort of explore the space around them in a way that is probably different because of that. I think that they could get away with more, or they could actually probably define things a little bit better because you were able to inhibit the space with them for that. It worked out really well, I think. Like this to me maybe would I guess what I would say is I would feel more emotionally impacted from this version of it than I probably would from the stage version of it. The stage version of it, I think I would be able to watch everybody go through the motions. But on in the film version of it, we are taking it into people's actual lives in a way that I think is different than what you could have accomplished on the stage.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing, I mean, like, I also think in terms of those subtextual moments, I felt like a lot of that was in the bench scenes or the scenes with our Fantastic Four star, Miles Teller. And those of you that are interested in hearing us talk about the Fantastic Four, connecting it back to that, that's episode 15.1 if you want to Google that. But in the meantime, yeah, thanks. Do what I can. So, I mean, like, the marriage scenes are a little bit like, they go to the mat and, like, they air everything out and stuff like that. So those scenes, like, I could see the argument of how, maybe being theatrical, when they do have the one-on-one scenes. But these scenes, I felt like what was unsaid was so much more powerful, and it was, and it added to the emotional vice that this film puts you in. I feel like it puts your heart in a vice.
Yeah. I would say, I guess...
Well, except for you, Jay Money, I obviously, you don't have one, so it's an entirely different experience.
I've heard of you guys talk of such things, but I don't personally understand them. But I think that if I did have a heart, I would have been affected by this movie. I will also say that as we kind of get into performances a little bit more, this was like the movie that Nicole Kidman was probably born to play. I mean, literally, she was built in her robot factory to play this specific role. Because I think that I have in my notes here. It is the best performance of her career, and she won an Oscar for The Hours. And I don't think she's ever given a better performance, and she may not ever give a better performance. It's almost like I feel like this was a role that was engineered for her to be able to comfortably fit into it perfectly, because she tends to exude sort of prickly iciness to me personally, in almost all the things that she does, and it really worked well as a layer for this character specifically. It really felt like very natural for her, and I also felt very empathetic towards her too in this role. So, in a lot of ways, it combined to make a perfect setting for her.
Whilst she did, Time's Up again. Whilst she did produce the film and engineer its adaptation, obviously she did not originate on stage, and it was not written for her. It was actually written for another actress altogether, and the actress won a Tony for it in 2007. Do you guys want to guess? Did you do the research to who the original Broadway couple was?
No, I have no idea.
Do you have any guesses? There are two people that one had been a TV star and one was about to become a TV star, both on cable.
I don't know.
For one of them, the show that they're on just ended. In the case of the woman, she won a Tony, and she was on a show that was very popular, mainly to women.
Mainly to women.
Like a classic cable show.
Classic cable show to women.
Like all-time classic.
Is it Oprah?
No, but it had 2 movie adaptations, or 1 and a sequel.
Sex and the City?
There you go.
Ah.
I don't know.
But who from Sex and the City? You guys never watched Sex and the City, so you didn't know, huh?
No.
So Cynthia Nixon originated this role, and it was written for her, more or less.
That makes a lot of sense. I could easily see her in this role.
And she won a Tony for her work. And John Slattery was the original husband,
wow.
now known better as Roger Sterling from Mad Men.
Okay.
So
Cool.
those are the original couple. But with that said, I mean, even Aaron Eckhart himself doesn't get in a lot of credit. Nicole Kidman actually got an Oscar nomination for this, and I think the only reason she didn't win is she had won for in the Hours in 2002, a year she didn't deserve it. And also Natalie Portman in Black Swan, a tough competition for sure, who wound up beating her. But I would vote for Nicole Kidman in that particular case, as much as I admire Black Swan. So you guys down with that? Nicole Kidman over. I've lost her name already. What's her name?
Portman.
Black Swan.
Natalie Portman.
Yeah. You guys down with that? You agree?
In this case specifically, I would go Nicole Kidman over Portman. As much
other nominees that year were Jennifer Lawrence in Winter's Bone and Annette Bening for The Kids Are All Right, both of which are, to me, underneath these 2 performances. But those 2 are fun.
I'm fine either way.
No, you have to pick one.
All right, fine then. I pick Portman.
Whoa.
Now we disagree.
I knew that we disagree with something. All right, guys, we're going to try to get back ahead here. So I'm going to close things up.
One quick thing to say. I ended up watching Rabbit Hole after I watched another movie, and they surprisingly worked very well together in a way that I wasn't expecting at all. It just sort of happened that way. The movie that I watched before Rabbit Hole is The Babadook, which is a great Australian horror film from, 2012 at this point? There's a lot of surprising...
It was last year.
I think it was last year, yeah.
Have you guys both seen it?
No, I haven't.
No,
I want to.
I don't want to say too much then, but there's a lot of surprising parallels between the 2 movies that actually work out very well when you watch them together.
Well, that's a fun note for our viewing audience. And remember, if you have any comments or questions, I mean, at this point, we're going to close up, so the comments can go directly on the YouTube page, and we will respond to them in some way, shape, or form. And sometimes we'll even, acknowledge you on the air. Crazy. So that's it for Rabbit Hole. Next, we're going to have an hour-long discussion of our classic, as we generally do, and coming about 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. We're going to talk about Hal Ashby's film from 1975, the film Shampoo, which, strangely enough, shares a screenwriter from a film we talked about last time, Chinatown. So that's coming up in about 5 minutes, maybe a little later since we're taking so long tonight, but anyway, that's our discussion of Rabbit Hole, short and sweet. We'll be back with Shampoo very shortly.